Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today's video is sort of a follow-up to my last piece of no-buy content where I gave some ideas for what you can do on a no-buy to still be connected to Lolita fashion. If you haven't seen that one, well, I mentioned that I was on a no-buy at the beginning of it and that I would be for 3 months, and now that 3 months is up. I'm going back on a no-buy. My pattern right now is basically 3-month no-buy, 1 month where it's okay to use the money I've saved up, and then 3-month no-buy again to be able to save up for a trip to Japan. That being said, I wanted to sit down and film a video with some of my tips to make a no-buy successful, and especially with consideration that you'll probably be buying Lolita after your no-buy is up. So I'll be also doing a second video, which I'll release next week instead of in 2 weeks, where I'm going to show what I bought after my no-buy and kind of explain why I chose those pieces to fit in my wardrobe. So here are 5 tips that I came up with to make your no-buy successful and make sure that you stick to it. The first thing is to establish an important goal for your no-buy. I know that if I just go into a no-buy and I'm like, okay, I'm just not gonna buy for a week or a month or a year, it's gonna be really hard to stick to it if I don't really feel like there's a point to it. I like to wear Lolita fashion, and I also like to buy new items and fill in the sort of gaps in my wardrobe. So I have to be more motivated to not buy items than I would be to buy new stuff. Like I already mentioned, my goal is to save up for a trip, and I know that's going to be an expensive one. So I basically calculated how much I would need to save up per paycheck to reach like a specific savings goal, and that really motivated me because the only way that I would really reach that goal is to be careful of my spending, and Lolita eats up a lot of money very quickly given that the items are relatively expensive or would be considered expensive for most people. If you're going on a no-buy because you feel like you're buying too much or you're worried about your spending habit, I would encourage you to try and find a more specific way to stick to your no-buy. For example, you could say that you're saving up until a specific dress pops up on the market, or just to have a goal, like you want to save up $200 towards Lolita, just something that'll help you stay on the right path. Especially if you're someone who is struggling with overspending or impulse buying, it's going to be very hard to curb those habits without a good reason, because we overspend and we impulse buy without reason anyway. A good reminder too is also that there's a lot of life expenses outside of Lolita, and not spending on Lolita for a while will make it easier on your stress levels and on your wallet to buy those essentials or, those little things you might have been putting off. Still, that brings us to rule number 2, which is to establish rules for your daily spending or savings. Though I mentioned other purchases, it is important not to replace the money that you're spending on Lolita with just spending it on something else instead, and basically you end up spending the exact same amount of money as you would have if you were buying Lolita. Obviously, this is not in relationship to essentials or life things, and I'm not just talking about like the bare minimum. If you need like a new pair of shoes because you don't have any comfortable shoes, you should spend good money on that. But what I mean is, let's say you were spending $200 a month on Lolita. Don't take up a new hobby just for the hell of it and spend $200 on that hobby and then do the same thing the next month. The no-buy that I'm talking about and kind of giving tips on for this video is more specifically to try and curb your spending or build healthier spending and savings habits as a Lolita. So my favorite rule to have is a daily spending maximum on non-essentials. When I say essentials, I'm obviously talking about all the bills you have to pay, like rent, groceries, utilities, and also, just general things like pharmacies. And again, sometimes things need to be replaced in life, and a certain amount goes into savings every month. So outside of that, you're gonna want to calculate basically how much you can spend per day on stuff that you really don't need and can't argue that you need. The way I calculated this is by taking my total cost of living per paycheck, so whatever it costs you per month, and then splitting that in two if you're paid twice a month. And then you add how much you want to put in your savings and how much you want to save for Lolita. You subtract this total amount from your pay and then you divide it by 14 days. And essentially what you're getting is you're taking the leftover after you've paid off all your bills, put money in your savings, put money in your Lolita savings, how much do you have left and how much can you spend per day. This will give you room to save up for Lolita and also still like enjoy life and buy things that pop up that you might want. Or you can just use that extra money and put it towards even more Lolita in your Lolita savings. For me, this worked out very well because over the course of 3 months, it was rare that I would actually hit my daily spending limit on non-essentials, and my cost of living didn't change, which meant that I usually had extra money to put in my regular savings and also in my Lolita savings. Another rule I had is when it came to just bigger purchases that I wanted to spend money on, I tried to only do one per paycheck. So for example, a few things I wanted were new shoes, a new work bag, and I wanted to buy ones that weren't just the bare necessities. So I'm not gonna buy the shoes and the work bag on the same paycheck. I'm gonna buy them on two separate ones to have more money left at the end of the month. These are just my financial budget rules that work very well for me. It's important to find ones that are good for your lifestyle, depending on how you're paid or what you're paid or what your saving goals are. But given that Lolita is quite an expensive hobby overall, or it can be, I would really encourage each person who's into Lolita fashion to actually take time to think about their spending versus their savings, because if you have enough money to have a wardrobe that is, at the very least adding up to a few $1,000s, you should have that money in savings as well. You should have a healthy relationship to the way you're spending on Lolita and not just ignore it because it's stressful. It is stressful to sit there and really think about the money that you're spending, but I think it's essential to really understanding your long-term goals with your wardrobe and valuing each individual piece that you have. Also, feeling like you're living paycheck to paycheck because you're spending money on clothes is not a stress-free way to live, that's for sure. So tip number 3 is to avoid and block shopping platforms and apps. At least at the very beginning of your no-buy, this really helps. It's hard to impulse spend if you don't see anything to spend money on. Basically, you just don't want to be tempted. You can use app block to block specific apps and websites on your phone, and on desktop you can use Blacklist, which is a Google extension. Those are what I use. Obviously, they give you control over it, so you still have to set time limits, and it's hard to resist, changing those time limits and turning off the apps, but you'll eventually build better habits the longer you stick to it. Eventually, when you feel like you can look at shopping apps or platforms without immediately wanting to buy something, just take the links of items you want and save them elsewhere, and then immediately close that tab and don't keep looking at it. Personally, I have a list of things from different platforms that I saw and consider buying. Things from Japanese shopping sites, from Taobao, from Lace Market, or other Western indie brands. And then throughout my no-buy, if I saw something I really liked because I was still checking apps, I just saved it there. And then when my no-buy was done, I went to look at everything I'd saved and determined what I was still interested in buying and what was just kind of a, heat of the moment, I want to buy this, but then 3 weeks later, it turns out you don't. Number 4 is choose an end date. I understand that this might not be possible for everyone because sometimes you can't really foresee when your spending will be able to change. Let's say that you just can't afford Lolita right now, you might not know when you will be able to afford it. If that's not the case, I would say to try and choose an end date just so that it doesn't feel endless. Even if that means that, after 4 months, you're going to spend $50 or $25 on something that's relevant to Lolita. If you have a hard time sticking to something without rules around it, an end date can help you feel like you have something to look forward to. A lot of the time I ended up thinking, well, it's only 3 months. Well, I only need to make it 3 months. Or now I only need to make it 2 months. Or now there's only 5 weeks left. That really helped put into perspective for me exactly how long I needed to stick to these goals to save money for something I really wanted. And number 5 is spend some time planning what you will want to buy when your no-buy is done. Now, this doesn't mean shopping or window shopping, really. What I mean is to take a look at your wardrobe and really figure out what pieces you feel are missing, what you would like for your next step in your wardrobe. What pieces could you buy that you would feel so excited for that it's worth waiting 3 months or 6 months or 2 weeks for, right? I wanted to have a good idea of what to hunt for or what main pieces I feel like would actually be worth buying when they popped up after my no-buy. The thing about a no-buy is when you watch money build up in your savings account, it helps you realize how much time you need to save up for a dress or a few accessories or whatever. And instead of just trying to pay it off on your next paycheck or in a few paychecks, you're really like, okay, I waited 3 months to buy this dress. What dress would be worth it for me? Or I waited 6 months to buy a cardigan and a few pieces of jewelry. Like, what is really worth it in that sense? It's very satisfying when you're done your no-buy to be able to buy things that you feel like you really reflected on, that really have a place in your wardrobe, and that can be really useful in the long term for your Lolita wardrobe. I did suggest something similar in my other video where I suggested like building coordinates with the items you already have or building coordinates with your dream dresses. This is more simply like planning items, like taking a look at all of the tops and blouses you have and seeing like what you don't really have. And it can also help extend your no-buy because you might realize that there's like a couple specific things that you really want, and maybe after your 3-month no-buy is up, none of those items are available for purchase. If you're really fixed on, let's say like a mint cardigan, but you can't find any secondhand or brand new, you might want to extend your no-buy until that mint cardigan pops up. That was all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that these tips can help you out. I know for me, I feel like this no-buy experience was a really good one. I wasn't necessarily in the mood to buy for a lot of it. Most of that was because I have such a big goal coming up. But by the time April rolled around, I was happy to make a few purchases and use the money that I had saved up. It felt very rewarding to very carefully select what I wanted to buy. And so I'm looking forward to explaining that in my next video, which like I said, will come out next week. Just showing you guys what I decided was worth the 3-month wait. If you have any other tips for your no-buy, please feel free to share them in the comments below, especially if your no-buy is much longer than mine. Obviously, I feel like the longer that you wait, the harder it can get. So if you have any tips for staving off that temptation over the course of a year or whatever, that would be really awesome to hear about in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, bye-bye.